There are dangerous proximities in the life of Muslims in America as a minority. For example, up until recently, perhaps still secretly, many Muslims are embarrassed, if not terrified, by the fact that their best allies are not pious Christians and Jews, but LGBTQ individuals and progressive leftist groups who are often staunchly secular. In terms of unpopularity, Muslims recently surpassed their long-term competitors and neighbors in this category, the atheists, as the most unpopular group. Pew Research and such centers that produce reports show them, and we see that Muslims landing next to such categories. Today I want to talk about another dangerous proximity, this time between the Muslims and the guns. And I want to pose this question: Muslims plus guns equals to what? Terrorism or hatred? Or since we are in Michigan, we can give its proper name, Muslims and the militia. Is an American Muslim militia a possibility? So I'd like to begin, before getting to the guns, I want to start with, pass through some dangerous tunnels of citizenship and Islamophobia. Hate crimes, as most of us know, against American Muslims have spiked to their highest level since the aftermath of 9/11. And as I said already, Muslims are the most unpopular group, according to surveys. And the idea of Islam as a legitimate American religion remains a fragile process. If you travel in New Jersey, we were talking about New Jersey while coming here from the hotel, you might see signs like, "Our most effective weapon against terrorism is you." Says billboards on a busy highway in New Jersey. It continues: "If you suspect it, report it." And further, anonymous calls accepted. At mass transit sites in New York and elsewhere, signs constantly remind us, if you see something, say something. Such widespread delegation of the power to identify threats has important consequences. A power that is unofficially and anonymously exercised over others is being given to ordinary citizens. Their target is any person, activity, or object. This partial delegation of the power of surveillance to the public deepens the securitization of everyday life. In place of, or in addition to the state's rational and rationalized Islamophobia, legalistic, let's say, we now see the empowerment of public's cultural or sentimental Islamophobia. And Muslims are faced with new demands for legitimacy, tests of loyalty, and a need for legibility. You can defend yourself before the law with reason. But how do you defend yourself before a sensitive and incensed public? What does the public want from Muslims? They have to prove their loyalty to the nation before a public that demands transparency of Muslim existence. Islam and Muslims have to become legible. In fact, the federal government, while demanding vigilance from its citizens against Muslims, potential danger from Muslims, sometimes feels the need to intervene to protect Muslims from the public's excesses. And this happens when they don't let people construct their masjids and so on. This, then I see here a problem that Muslims face, the problem of not being seen as being like everyone else. One of the people in Pennsylvania, a community member, Muslim community member, his response to the reporter is that we were just asking for our mosque and we just wanted to be treated like everyone else, and Muslims are not treated like everyone else. So what is the problem? The problem is, I call the problem of Muslim opacity, a certain opaqueness. There has been an upsurge in cases of mistaken identification of terrorists by the public, and this is most visible in aviation industry. United Airlines keep staying in the news today with the Scorpion. So think of scenarios where an auntie sitting next to you can just mobilize entire NYPD or FBI or TSA by just not liking the way you speak or you look and so on. As a matter of fact, Guido Menzio, an ethnic Italian professor of economics from University of Pennsylvania, was solving mathematical problems, and the person next to him, not recognizing the script, assumed he's Middle Eastern person, and so he was removed. In another occasion, an Arabic-speaking college student saying, Inshallah, mashallah, alhamdulillah, enough to establish your terrorist credentials, was also removed because of dangerous speech. There are many cases. Another one was two women removed because a cabin crew member didn't like the way they were staring back at her. Writing in an unusual script, speaking Arabic, and staring, all can threaten a security-conscious public. There are other genres of misidentification as well, some with more tragic consequences. A few months back, Khalid Jabara case, many of you know, the son of Lebanese American family in Tulsa, Oklahoma, was killed by a neighbor who called the Jabara family filter of Muslims, and they were Lebanese Christian family. So what is the Muslim response to the plight of opacity? How do they respond to this situation? Fleeing to legibility, they seek and wear uniforms. So my next chapter is uniforms. Members of lower classes, subordinate racial and ethnic groups often find consolation, compensation, and security in uniforms. Uniforms hide, neutralize, and normalize different selves under a legible generic cloth. The task that citizenship performs legally and invisibly is reiterated visibly and locally or concretely by the uniform. Did I cover your two guys? You were going to talk about
Yeah, as long as you put blood in there.
That part I'm leaving to the end. Okay. You will pick from there. The task of, so the summer of, last summer brought us two symbolically rich cases. The example of Ibtihaj Muhammad, the hijabi Muslim fencer, and the confrontation between Khan family and Donald Trump, the famous encounter, whose son, an army captain, was killed in Iraq. Wrapping oneself in America's sacred symbols to undo foreignness, to undo this opacity, to make oneself legible, is a kind of almost predictable strategy, not surprising in that sense. A uniform is a visual elimination of difference and institutional claim to sameness. Uniforms filter Muslims into Americanness. So Ibtihaj Muhammad's fencing helmet, I didn't bring my visuals, but I have really cool pictures. But since everybody mostly is exposed to those pictures in the past, I hope that you can rely on your memory. She holds her helmet with American flag, inscribed on it, and the hijab. When she puts the helmet on it, it perfectly fits. It covers, and helmet protects. But actually, it's the flag that does it. Her hijab and her. So there's that kind of witness. That I will say more about the flag and hijab later. Similarly, the presence and sacrifice of Muslims in the American military becomes a crucial ground for proving the sincerity of their claims to membership in the nation. Yet while his son Humayun Khan was protected by his military uniform and ultimate sacrifice, Khizr Khan, the father, felt it necessary to carry a copy of the Constitution in his pocket, like an amulet against Islamophobia. In his public shaming of Trump, he pulled out the pocket Constitution on the stage, and he proved himself irreproachably American. Only by such conspicuous patriotism can Muslim bodies save themselves from illegibility and suspicion. So Muslim identity, one can say, has become unavoidable in American public culture, and Muslims are part of American life as both villains and heroes. As Islam continues to be perceived as a threat on the world stage, American Muslims seek to flee from the opacity and try to individuate and prove their kind of normality and citizenship. Since the election of Trump, American Muslims feel that they are facing a new authorized Islamophobia. And they recognize more than ever before, perhaps, that their survival as citizens depends on solidarity with other minorities and on embracing causes that are shared by a nation at large. to more interest on the part of Muslims to, let's say, Jewish concerns, as this vandalization, desecration of Jewish cemeteries. Muslims were engaged in some crowdfunding. Similarly, Black Lives Matter finds more resonance among immigrant non-African American Muslims. These are significant developments with respect to Muslim civility at the broader level. Now, in the second part of my presentation, how am I doing time?
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, good. I'm a little concerned that I might not reach the end, the dangerous part. American Muslim patriotism. If you look back at Muslim attitudes towards American identity or America in general, you can see an interesting evolution. I'm talking primarily about immigrant Muslims. African American experience is totally different. One way to trace this, as I did in my book, is to look at ISNA's convention titles. In the last 2 decades, they became increasingly more domestic and even Christian. Early convention titles are things like Islam and the West, the challenge of identity, how do we preserve our identity in this hostile environment, and so on. Then we see the appearance of dialogue and conversation, then life, liberty, and even the pursuit of